Baruch Hashem, it is day number 27 of our daily study of the Rambam Sefer HaMitzvos. And correspondingly, in our study of 3 chapters a day of Mishnah Torah, we are in the laws of Tefillin, Mezuzah, and Sefer Torah, specifically chapters 2, 3, and 4 of those laws. And yesterday we had the mitzvah of the head tefillin. That's positive commandment number 12. That was yesterday's mitzvah. And as we mentioned yesterday, that is a separate and distinct mitzvah from the mitzvah of the arm tefillin. 2 separate mitzvahs. So every time you put on tefillin, you're actually doing 2 mitzvahs, not just 1. So here we go. Today's commandment. Positive commandment number 13. Yesterday was positive commandment number 12. The head tefillin. Today is positive commandment number 13. What is it? The hand tefillin that goes on the arm next to the heart when the arm is at rest, and the box on the biceps goes next to the rib cage where the heart is. So it's interesting the difference between these 2 mitzvahs. The language that the Torah uses to describe them is different. The verbs. Kshartum la'is al yodecha. You should tie them, bind them as a sign on your hand, on your arm. V'hoyu l'teiteves beinecha, and they should be frontlets or a sign between your eyes. You see the verb? Kshartum is an active verb. You should tie it. You should bind it. V'hoyu l'teiteves beinecha is a passive verb. It should be. It should just be there. The mitzvah is it should be there. And there's a sicha from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which I want to highly recommend to everybody to study, from Likutei Sichos Chelik Lamed Tes. That's volume 39 of Likutei Sichos, specifically on page 22. It is the second sicha of Parshas V'aschanan. V'aschanan is the parsha where the mitzvah of tefillin is stated. So actually the mitzvah of tefillin is stated 4 times in Torah, but this is one of the places. And in this sicha, it goes into this difference between the mitzvahs of head tefillin and arm tefillin. So what's the difference between the mitzvah being actively tying, binding, in the case of the hand tefillin, and it just being there in the case of the head tefillin? Okay, so practically, I'll give you an example. A practical example would be, let's say somebody put on tefillin before the time that you're supposed to put on tefillin, meaning they put on tefillin before dawn. So they had the tefillin on already, and then the sun comes up, and now it's the time of tefillin. So this person who was already wearing tefillin before dawn and is now continuing to wear tefillin after dawn, have they done the mitzvah? And the answer is, very interestingly, they've done the mitzvah of the head tefillin, but not of the hand tefillin. Why? Because the mitzvah of the head tefillin is just that it should be there. And it is. It is there. It's been there since before dawn. The mitzvah of the hand tefillin is to put it there. And they didn't put it there during the time that you're supposed to put it there. It was already there from before dawn. Okay. Now that's a practical example. But the significance goes much, much deeper. And this is why I encourage everybody to learn this sicha in its original. We know that tefillin is the concept of shibud hamayach v'halev, subjugating, aligning our minds and our hearts to Hashem's will. And more specifically, the head tefillin corresponds to the mind, and the arm tefillin corresponds to the heart. Makes sense? Okay. The way we subjugate or align our minds to Hashem's will is different than the way we subjugate or align our hearts to Hashem's will. And this is spoken about at length in Tanya. The mind is under our control. We can choose to think about what we want to think about. And even when we have other thoughts that distract us, we can stay focused and keep on thinking about the right thing. The heart is much different. The heart does what it wants to do. And sometimes the best we can do is just refuse to listen to the heart, meaning we can't force the heart to like what it doesn't like. We can't force it to not like what it likes. The best we can do sometimes is just to say, well, sorry, heart, you're not going to get what you want because I have to do the right thing right now, okay? The mind is very different, though. The mind, you can actually tell yourself to think the right things. We have much more control over the mind than we do over the heart. Therefore, the mitzvah of the head tefillin, which represents the way that we're supposed to use our minds in serving Hashem, is v'hoyu l'toiteves beinenecha. It should be in a state of alignment with Hashem's will. With the heart, it's ukshartum lo'isal yedecha. You do the act. You do your best. You attempt to align it, but you're not really in control of the outcome. With the mind, you are, and it's your responsibility that your mind should always be aligned with the right things. But the heart, we try, we do our best, but sometimes the heart's going to do its own thing anyways. Okay, which is why we go back to the mind, and sometimes hamayach shalat al alev, and the mind just has to tell the heart, sorry, even though we didn't change what you like, you're not going to get what you like right now because it's not good for you and it's not what Hashem wants. So that's a deeper explanation of the difference between these two mitzvahs. And again, I encourage everybody to study the Sikha in its original. We will see you, God willing, tomorrow.